Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you're joining us from. A very warm welcome to all of you to the second session of day 4 of the Poverty Stoplight Innovation Week. We are indeed so happy, so thrilled to continue today's program with a conversation focused on data, how we understand it, and how we can use it in more practical, human-centered ways. Before we begin, though, a couple of announcements. The first one, um, we would like to remind everyone that simultaneous translation is available in this session and indeed throughout the whole of the Innovation Week. In order to activate, the simultaneous interpretation, all you need to do is you need to, find the interpretation icon, which you should be able to see in the bottom Zoom toolbar in your screen, right? And then you select on that icon or click on it rather, and then you can select the language that you would like to listen to, either Spanish or English. Um, Muy buenos días, buenas tardes y buenas noches a todos, dependiendo desde dónde se están uniendo a esta sesión. Queremos darle una súper bienvenida, una muy cálida bienvenida a esta segunda sesión del día 4 de la semana de innovación del semáforo del Poverty Stoplight. Estamos realmente súper felices de poder continuar con el programa de hoy. Esta vez con una conversación que va a estar centrada en los datos, cómo entendemos los datos y sobre todo cómo podemos utilizar los datos de manera práctica, pero también de manera que nos permita realmente centrarnos en las personas. Antes de empezar, queremos recordarles a todos que tenemos interpretación simultánea disponible. Para activar este feature, lo único que tienen que hacer es en la barra de abajo de su pantalla de Zoom, tienen que encontrar el iconito que dice Interpretation y allí pueden seleccionar el idioma que prefieren escuchar, español o inglés. También queremos recordarles de que si ustedes prefieren silenciar el idioma original en ese mismo icono, lo podrán hacer, ¿no? So we would like to remind everyone as well that in terms of the interpretation, if you would like to mute the original sound, then you need to, find again the interpretation icon, and then you will be able to mute the original sound if you prefer it that way. So now the conversations, I will now carry on entirely in English. Hopefully you will have figured out the interpretation by now, and I believe my colleague Wendy is helping me, put these same messages in the chat. Conversations like today's are really part of a broader effort to connect learning, innovation, and technology, and of course, action across our global Stoplight network. This same spirit will continue in the upcoming Cerrito Forum, our annual gathering right here in our beautiful country, Paraguay, where we'll keep exploring questions around poverty elimination, data, technology, education, sustainability, and of course, social impact. If you'd like to learn more about Cerrito Forum, then please do get in touch. You can email us at cerritoforum@povertystoplight.org, or you can check out our website, cerrito.com.py. If you do get in touch, please drop us a line. Say, hey, I would like to come to Paraguay. Say, hey, I would love to participate. Say, hey, I would love to be a speaker, right, in the conference. And if you get in touch, then we will, of course, come back to you with options, with informations, and with further details. Now, without further ado, it is honestly my pleasure to introduce today's speakers. Ibrahima Ball, Program Data Analyst for International Programs at Unbound, a partner of the Poverty Stoplight across 17 countries. And of course, Davide Gallo, founder of Vetta. In this session, Ibrahima and Davide will help us look at data from a more accessible and practical perspective. They will explore how data is not only technical information or numbers, but also evidence, observations, conversations, survey responses, of course, patterns, and stories that can help us better understand the people and the very communities we are serving across the world. Drawing from Ibrahima's experience connecting program data with the lived realities of families across the world, and Davide's work helping entrepreneurs use AI to test ideas and build more effectively. This conversation will invite us to think about how data can support learning, decision making, of course, and impact without losing sight of the human context behind it. So, Ibrahima and Davide, thank you so very much for giving us your time, your expertise, your experience, of course, as well. And thank you for joining the Innovation Week as speakers. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Julia, for the intro. And Ibra, maybe I'll let you start off the dance.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Julia, for the introduction. I don't even have much to add. That was spot on. But yes, it's really an honor. Really are happy to be able to present today with Davide and our session today. I hopefully you're able to see my screen here. Our
Yep.
session today is called Getting Familiar with Data, and very importantly, why it's not as scary as you think. So the title is very intentional because today is not about becoming data experts. We don't want you to be able, well, we don't want you to focus on building complex dashboards or memorizing very weird technical definitions. The goal is much simpler than that. We want you to focus on three things.
We
When we
will
think about data,
demystify some. We will have some technical terms, and we'll try and demystify them.
yes, yes. Try to make everything as easier than it looks or seems. And sometimes it is easier. That is really the goal. Yes, the goal is simpler. Once you focus on these three things, you want to be able to ask better questions, look for evidence, and making better decisions. So just thinking about data in a more practical way. David, do you have anything to add there?
And maybe worth saying something about the format, Ibra, because we really try to make this as interactive as possible, and we did not design slides. We put some post-its on a board, so please do interrupt. I mean, you can get. Feel free to get off mute. But it's better if you raise a hand on Zoom. We will be more than happy to give you the stage. Feel free to put stuff in the chat. So if you want to get off camera, of course, it's a little cozier, but it's we've designed it kind of as a like less as a classroom and more like sitting around the fire. Right? Am I saying it right?
Yes, love it. Yes. And we actually will get started right now. We do have a first question just to get us started. We want to feel the temperature of the room. So we want you to think about, well, when you hear the word data, what is one word or feeling that comes to mind? So feel free to write any one word in the chat. Feel free to raise your hand. We'll give you the opportunity to talk. But yes, on my end, not to give any answers away, but when I hear about data, I can think of a lot of different things. And the goal is just to actually see that data is much broader than we initially think. And the goal today, throughout this whole session, I would say, is if we have one message that I want everyone to go home with, is that data is just not a technical tool. It is a tool, yes, but more of a tool for learning. And by the end of the session, hopefully everyone will feel it to be a little bit less intimidating. All right, Davide.
I'm gonna put these post-its actually on the board. Feel free to scroll right, Ibrahima. Am I actually well,
Oh
I
yeah,
had a
we do
question
have
on top
some.
of that. If anybody want to share, what do you guys expect by the end of this session? So we've got
And
a
Davide,
wall
we
here.
do have some in the chat as well. I love evidence, information, representation, opportunities, graphs, inputs for now. Yes, yes, I love it.
Opportunities. I like that.
Yes, representation, amazing.
Yep.
But yes, we do have. Thank you for putting those up, Davide. But yes, when we hear the word data, we put in a couple of sticky notes in there already about what we think are the most frequent answers when we ask a question like this. And for some people, data does mean numbers, reports, evidence. For some others, it might mean pressure, decisions, more about feelings, confusing. So it is really broad. It's not just one technical thing. It's not just one technical term. It's not just a number. So it shows that data can be very useful for us to be able to get evidence from, let's say, families and others, but it can also be very confusing or even put pressure on us when we don't know exactly how to interpret it. I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
saying that right, Davide, but yes. So before we talk about dashboard analysis, it is good to really ground ourselves in what we think data is, and really go from there to start asking questions, which we'll show later. And I like from Eusebio say ir evidenciando la gestión. Yeah, and we have a free translation. Show the evidence on the project.
Yeah, I need a translation on that one. Thank you.
Yes. And yes, and I like all of these. Shows how broad it is. But one word that I really like here, for example, is families, and that gives a little bit more background to my personal work, what I do at Unbound. Uh, to give a very quick background, we are working with Fundación Paraguaya because we have the same vision that we believe that the smartest path out of poverty is the families owning that own project. So it's more self-directed from the families. So we partnered with Fundación Paraguay. We're using this amazing tool called the Poverty Stoplight. And when I started working on Unbound, this was about 3 years ago, I started doing this big mistake every day of thinking that the data I was working with was just numbers. It took me well, when I went on my first trip to Honduras, which is one of our projects in Latin America, and getting to see how our staff was collecting this data from the families, going to the family home, then I realized, okay, each and every data point that I'm using when I'm back in Kansas or New Jersey, it's not just a number. It's more of a real story behind each and every point of data, real scenarios, very personal questions we're asking to the families. So family is a very good representation I really love there.
And it's really interesting because it really changed your perspective, right? Doing the first field trip.
Yes, 100%. It changed everything from the way that I work with the data, from how I was treating, because in my past experiences, I worked in the financial industry, which was very different. I was using transactional data,
Yeah,
banking. It is
a lot
still
more dry.
yes, but I still see a big common point between all of those. I worked in the financial industry, I worked in the media and marketing, and now I'm working at Unbound. But one common point that I can say from those three different industries, very different, is when it comes to the data, it is still one definition that data is not separate from people. We use data to understand people's lives better or people realities. So it is really this tool for learning. And thank you so much for actually writing us about your word feelings, or how you feel about data.
And
It's
I think, Ibrahima,
yeah.
this is probably a great link to the next frame because for many people, I guess, data is scary. And I remember when I was first getting into data, I had all these friends that were working as data engineers for these big consulting firms, and I was hearing a lot of scary words like data warehouse or ETL and all stuff that it just made it feel a lot more technical. What you're saying here is that data is about people. So I kind of wanted to invite everybody here once again to stop and and think about why is data intimidating. So can you relate with me being intimidated back in the day when I heard people talking about data? Why is it that it is intimidating? What specifically makes it feel intimidating? Is it the language that is a little bit unknown? Is it that there are too many numbers? Once again, if you can raise your hand and share a story, put in chat. I'd love to hear from you. If anybody wants to go and share why data feels intimidating.
Thank you, Davide, for bringing that one up. I'm also very interested in knowing, because we all have our personal stories about why we felt intimidated by data. I'm sure you were there, and I was there. I've been working with and around data for the last 6 years, and I still get intimidated in some instances. I'm not going to give out answers. Try to let it
And
be
we said
very,
it was going to be an interactive session,
yeah.
so it's
Yes. So we do have a response. It feels too technical, and that is only for
yep.
experts. I can relate to that. We have from Melis as well. I feel like I could make a lot of mistakes or misinterpret if I don't understand the formulas or statistics.
And what happens if if you make mistakes? Are these like mistakes that are going to have consequences, or you interpret data wrongly?
Yes, well, mistakes can be costly when it comes to data. When this thing, I mean, from my personal perspective, is everything that I put out there in a dashboard for our other stakeholders to use. I do feel that sense of I'm responsible for those numbers. Those numbers might be put in, in social media, in other
Yeah,
reports outside, and you have these big responsibilities. So I can put it as pressure as well. So I really do get that. Yes, you're scared to make mistakes. Uh,
yeah.
we do have
I like
a
this
review
one.
which feels.
Overwhelming,
Oh, go ahead.
hard to know where to start. This is exactly what we're going to talk about today, by the way. We're
Mhm.
going to give a step-by-step framework. We're going to do two things, I think. We're going to give a step-by-step framework, and we're going to demystify a lot of technical words. So,
Yes, I want that. Methods for knowing when it tells you something versus when it does not. That one is interesting.
yeah, excellent. Probably this, well, I hope I put them all on this
Oh
board.
yes,
Um,
thank you
yeah,
for putting that in, every
yeah,
day. But yes, we have all of these, and like I mentioned earlier, we've been this specific spot, and still today. I'm not sure every day. I mean, you've been working. Yeah, maybe I would say yes, definitely for sure. A lot more experience when it comes to data than
I'll say.
most of other people who've been working around that space. Uh, do you still feel intimidated at
I
where
mean,
you are sometimes?
I do try always to bridge the gap between
Mhm,
technical and non-technical,
mhm.
technical people and non-technical people. I definitely feel that there's a jargon. Most of it is unnecessary. I mean,
Yes,
most of it is actually easy to grasp once you know what the uh, terms actually mean. And and that's what we're here for. I mean, Ibrahima, the probably this is a good place to set the to start off by debunking a few of the myths um, that that yeah
we
float
do.
around this whole data space. So,
Yes, we can go through the myths. We do have a couple more comments as well. One from
oh,
Melissa. In our world of risk, privacy, and data breaches, responsibility feels scary too. Yes, I completely agree, especially when you're working with very sensible data, family data. If you work in another industry, in the financial industry, you're working with people accounts. And ahora sí tiene comentarios en español. Oh, yes. Okay, that's for us. So thank you for that. But yes, one thing before we move to the myth, I would say yes. In my opinion, I think what makes it intimidating for a lot of people, and when I look at the comments, I can see it is they they feel that there's a necessity to understand everything around data when they're presented with a problem. As in, they need to understand the database, they need to understand the dashboard, they need to understand the formulas. If we're putting it in the perspective of the poverty sublight, they want to understand the methodology, the survey logic, and that can I'm feeling overwhelmed just talking about it.
definitely.
And like David said, we have these steps in place where we're going to tell you it does not really start all of there. You don't really need to get all of that, grasp all of those concepts. It starts with very simple steps. You start with questioning And then we'll move to the myths right now with Davide, which makes a lot of sense to go to this right now. But thank you, Davide. You can go ahead. You can attack this.
So let's make a start. So first of all, when we think about data, most of us put numbers. Data is about numbers. In reality, the first mindset shift happens when you stop seeing data as numbers and you start seeing data as an attitude. Data is an attitude that starts with asking questions. Data is about trying to understand what's going on behind the scenes. Data is about putting on the scientist hat. The scientist hat, running an experiment and measuring the result. Yes, part of that is about, well, numbers, but I would kind of say that we think about numbers in the wrong way. So you don't need to be an engineer to understand numbers. You don't need to be a coder. You don't need to write SQL. Like already the word is SQL is one of the scary words that we're gonna debunk. So the core here, the core on data is actually an attitude. It's the attitude of asking questions and measuring the answer, measuring the result. So that's myth number one. Second myth, a lot of us are taught to take numbers as truth. Oh, the answer is 42. If you read the Hitchhiker's, whatever. So a number is a piece of evidence. A number is a piece of evidence. A number is a fact. A number is a perspective. So this is how data can sometimes be misleading. Like you've got numerous examples. You could have a chart telling you that revenue went up 300%. Okay, great, excellent. But what was the baseline? The baseline was, very low revenue. You're still having a very low revenue. So again, a number is not a piece of truth. A number is a perspective, is a piece of evidence. It's up to you using that number, take the right decisions to build the story. Third myth, probably is my favorite. Data is numbers. No, every fact is data. This is especially true today in the age of AI. AI allows us to understand language. Stop me anytime, Ibra, if you want to add something. Every fact. So think about the surveys. Every response is a piece of data. Every questionnaire is a piece of data. So a better way to see data is everything that can be captured as a fact. Everything that you can write in like a raw of a spreadsheet is a piece of data. Like my mood tracking system. How am I feeling at the end of the day? Happy. Happy is a piece of data. um, the meeting transcript that I'm taking out of this conversation, my transcriber being on and transcribing everything they say, that is a piece of data. Again, the survey answers. Big mindset shift. I'll dash through the rest. Fourth myth, you need fancy tools to do data. No, it's just a spreadsheet. Everything that you can put in a table is data. So we get scared when we hear about data warehouses, ETL, SQL. If you don't know these terms, that's just furthers my point. But you can all picture a table. You don't need to be a math graduate to picture a table. The essence is just that, a table with stuff in it. Same thing. Only technical people can work with data. All the opposite. A dashboard, yes, helps us explore. But ultimately, it's the business people that need to interpret the data and take decisions. If I have a dashboard, I have an answer. Wrong. A dashboard is a perspective. We need context. We need the story. Think about the story. I mean, it's a great example. You, Ibrahima, going to visit the families and actually gaining all the context. All of a sudden, you could grasp the stories behind those numbers. And finally, well, yeah, more data always means better data, and data tells us what to do. Well, that's not always the case. It's more data sometimes it can create noise. More data sometimes it can it can make finding the meaningful data harder to surface. So it's it all goes back to having that compass of what is it that you're actually trying to achieve. What are the decisions that you need to make, and what is the data that actually supports or informs those decisions?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to make one extra point, and thank you for actually going through all of these. The one that came back to me are there's one point in common is just the rise of AI. When I think about a lot of these, like when you say every fact is data, we can get data from photos now, which is
Yep.
amazing. When you say when only technical people can work with data, that is where I try to put a big emphasis on how you can use AI to help you make a lot of these either manual or prerequisites. But at the end of the day, the human judgment is still needed. When it comes to interpretation, you don't necessarily just want to give the data to AI to interpret it for you. And there's also this point you made about me traveling. And even without the travel, one thing that I still need today when I go through the survey and I'm looking at these dashboards and I'm trying to interpret the results. And for example, there are some indicators that improved. Let's say some indicators went from red or yellow to green. You don't necessarily know why just by looking at 2,000 different visuals on a dashboard. Sometimes all you need to do is just go to the field or send an email to the project staff in there and say, why do you think this is improving? And the response they will give you is actually data as well. They'll give you, okay, maybe we made this intervention, or we focus a lot more on this, or this happened to this family. So there are so many different ways to get data, and the interpretation, I really want to put a big emphasis on the importance of human judgment. We love AI. I love AI. But it has its limits, and I think we're better. So,
All right.
yes.
So what follows is the framework. So hopefully, we've put your thoughts on a board. We've put your fears, what makes data feel intimidating. We've debunked a few of the myths. Right now, we're gonna give you 3 steps. Well, actually, I should say 4 steps. So that basically capture the end-to-end process of getting insights from data. So you take the steps that we're going to talk about here, and you will be able automatically to talk with any data analyst or any data engineer. Like this literally is all there is.
Yes, thank you, Davide, for bringing it up. Yes, step 0. We are also again intentional with the name, because this is what we need to do before anything else. Sometimes, well, this happens even before you really take a look at the data. You can see the data, have an understanding of, oh yeah, this will be data about families, okay. But before you even get to the data, clean the data, there is a step 0. And the step 0 is to start with a question in plain English or plain Spanish, depending. But yes, and usually, even on my end, we usually start with foggy questions. It could be, I want to analyze customer trends. I want to analyze poverty. Is our program working? And these are not bad questions. It's a good way to start, but they are way too broad. And in my personal experience as well, it got to a point where we did not really have a choice but ask foggy questions because we did not know what we were working with. So it is a good way to start, but we always want to turn those into sharper questions. And one thing that all sharp questions have in common are three factors. There's a who, there's a what, and there's a when. We always want that. So let's say I want to analyze, is our program working? Broad question. A sharper way to ask that same question is, did red income indicators in Guatemala improve between the last two surveys? So here we have the who. We are focusing on Guatemala. Guatemala is a project that you're working with. So you have this location. They're very specific. I'm focusing not globally. I'm focusing on this one project in Guatemala. I have the who. And then there's the what you want to measure. What do you want to measure? The red income indicators.
Yep.
Once again, very specific. And the when, which is very important. You just don't want to analyze, okay, the red indicators from Guatemala, that's it. We want to do it over the last two surveys. The last two surveys, let's say, so this is maybe the last 2 years. It could be the last 3 years. It could be the last 2 months. So we want to have a when, and that just turns a question that is very broad is our program working to having an answer, oh yes, because of XYZ, I believe that our program is working in Guatemala. And we can do that with a lot of different ones. If you want to, there's always a who, but sometimes it can be a little bit more broad or global. So let's say this question, for example, did families reduce at least one red indicator over the last 12 months? We have the when. The when is we want to analyze data over the last 12 months. We have the who are families. So if I was asked a question like this, my intuition will tell me, okay, the stakeholder who asked me this question wants to analyze this data globally. I'm not being asked to analyze data in Guatemala or Honduras or in Mexico, etc. I'm being asked to do this globally. And then we have the what, reducing of the red indicators once again. So those 3 points are very important, and these are very translatable to, you can scale this to every business that you're working with, or each and every industry that you're working with. Whether you're in the manufacturing, or you are in the financial industry, or in the media and marketing. Asking sharper questions is way easier than we think. You just need those 3 factors: who, what, and when, and I'll go from there. I don't know if you have any comments about that, Davide, if you would like to add anything.
I'd love to invite you guys to think about the questions that you would like to have asked, to have answered, and maybe to make it even more interesting, even better if these are questions that you're not currently able to answer. You don't currently have dashboards for using the framework that you, Ibrahima, just mentioned.
Thank you, Davide.
Again,
yes.
Put in the chat is this could be a good starting point for the first step.
Yes, this would be great if you could start asking questions using the who, what, when method. Ask a question, plain English, plain Spanish, and we go from there. And our Davide, let us go through our next step. So we're through step 0, ask the question, get the sharp question out there. And then, Davide, what do you do after you get the question?
Yeah, so please do put in the chat if there's any business question that you would like to have answered. Feel free to share it. Feel free to write it down. What happens then? So once again, these are the exact steps that every data person follows. Step 0 is you start with a question. Step 1, you have to understand where the answer could come from. And here we are talking about the sources of the data that you need. You could have surveys, you could have your project management software, you could have your CRM, your custom relationship management software, you could have your payment platform if you need to analyze revenue. Or, once again, we said that every fact is data. You could have photos, like a library of pictures. You could have audio responses. You could have written case studies. So it's about figuring out where the data could come from. This is also where we start encountering the first, let's say, scary words. And this is also where I'm encouraging you guys, if there are any scary words that you would like us to debunk, put them in the chat, like stuff that you had heard your head of IT talk about, you didn't really know what they meant. We will keep it closed. You will not go out of this workshop. What stays what happens in this workshop stays in this workshop. Excellent. LLM. I'll tackle this. So I'll start with the ones that we've got on the board. So what am I talking about? So the point is that we basically have data. So data lives in all sorts of different places, right? Data is everywhere. Photos, it could be in a Google Drive folder or the transcript that I'm taking of this meeting. It's in my transcriber app. Or the surveys, it's in the Poverty Stoplight database that the Poverty Stoplight team owns. Or paper surveys, I don't know, they sit on our desk. We need to take this data and move it to a central place. So this is the meaning of the word migration. When we talk about data migration, it really just means taking a table and moving it from A to B. If the survey is a paper thing on my desk, it needs to be scanned and put in a table. What is this B destination? It could be anything. It could be anything. It could be a single Google Drive folder. It could be a single folder on someone's computer. It can be a single database. But this is where we encounter the second scary word, data warehouse. Data warehouse is nothing more than a candidate for this central destination that shares a few features that data people typically like, meaning that it can hold a lot of data, like a billion of rows, and it's pretty fast. But from a structural point of view, from a conceptual point of view, like there's no big difference from okay, some people will okay, engineers, shut your ears for a second, but conceptually there's not, I mean, a shared Google Drive folder in which you put all the data and a data warehouse share the same characteristic of being a single place, a single source of truth in which you put all the stuff. When you hear the word data warehouse, again, it's just a central place in which you have migrated all the data from the data sources. In the case of software, so in the case of your payment platform or the meeting transcriber app, I don't know why I'm so excited about meeting transcriber. I've mentioned it 3 times in this workshop. Or your CRM. So the way you ask this piece of software for data, the way you ask to your payment platform, hey, can you give me the table that contains the transactions over the past month? The way you ask the payment platform, can you please give me the table of the past transactions for the past month? That is an API. An API is the door. An API is the protocol for you to make a request to a piece of software. So humans speak English or Spanish or whatever language. If I need to ask Ibrahima for a table, I will use English over an email. Software uses APIs over internet. Yeah. What about LLMs? Sorry, Ibrahima.
I say, oh, that was a good way to put it. APIs. You know, we speak English, and software speak
Yeah, exactly.
API to each other. Yes,
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
yeah, you can go ahead. Didn't mean to cut you off for LLMs.
LLMs, large language models. So LLMs are LLMs
For
are
me, if I was to put it in a sure in an easy way, I would just think about all these little chatbots we have: ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, everything that we have. They are using LLMs, this large language model, to be trained. So let's say this AI is able to talk to me now because it was trained by a massive amount of data. Sorry, by a massive amount of data that it was able to get and learn from, so it can be able to speak to me like a human being. I think that's some basic level, but Debbie, I'm sure you were coming up with something there.
yeah, maybe a very naive way to say LLMs are like transformation machines that take words is input
Mhm.
and produce some sort of outputs. So, so the M in LLM means model. An example of model is the weather forecast. What's the weather forecast? The weather forecast takes some input, the temperature, the position of the clouds, and it spits out some output. So tomorrow the chance of rain is 90%. LLMs are large. Well, large means they're large. Models means they're like the weather forecast, but they're language models, meaning that the input is language. And in fact, nowadays, it's also images and audio. So you put language as input, you can give a case study as an input. You can give a transcript as an input. You could give instructions as an input, and they produce some output. And the cool thing about LLMs is that they're pretty useful for transforming data. In the context of data, they're pretty useful because they can transform data, which probably is a great introduction for the second step.
We do
So,
have another word in the chat, scary
right,
word,
statistical
statistical
significance.
significance.
Yes, yes, statistical significance. So, statistical significance is well, when we're playing with numbers, we will see some variance. We will see some. So when we will run when you're running an experiment, and you're trying to test your hypothesis, so you will get like a diversity of results. It's very unlikely that you will get 50-50 type of answers or exact even split. So statistical significance is the fancy way of saying, so when are our threshold big enough for us to act a decision on top of it? So say that we're talking about we're testing out landing pages. We've got two different landing pages, and we are directing people to either one or another. And there's a big button, buy your product, and you've got 70 people that bought the product with one landing page, and 61 that bought your product on the other. These are facts, and there's a difference. So 70 is higher than 61. So statistical significance is when is the gap large enough that we say that the first landing page was actually better? Is 9 large enough? That is statistical significance.
Right. Thank you, Davide. I know we're running out of time and we have two more steps. So if we can go through these, step 2 and 3, and then we can maybe have a Q&A after that.
So once you, yeah, right to push me on time. Let's speeding it up a bit. So where are we at? We're asking the questions. We've got the data sources to hopefully answer that. We have centralized the data all in one place. Now we need to make the data useful. Life is full of things that are not really useful or ready to draw insights from. Life is full of missing informations. You pull your transactions, your payment transactions from two different payment platforms. In one case, you've got one currency. In one case, you've got another one. One platform includes the time of the transaction. The other platform does not. So that's a missing information. You don't have something that you need. You would love to have a column called time, and it's not there. Or you've got duplicate records. Or you've got different spellings. You've got, in one case, country is spelled with so in one case, country is the country code. So you've got GB for Great Britain. In the other case, you've got Great Britain.
The
You can
formatting.
have, that's right, exactly. Formatting, yes. Formatting, yeah. Numbers in text columns. It's all sorts
Nightmare.
of mess. um, I'm sure you've seen a lot of that in
Oh
party stuff
yes,
in
I don't even want to talk about it.
the goal, well, is to clean it up somehow.
Yes. I think this is the part where it requires a bit of technical, but it is easier than we might think. We can always aggregate tables, and like Davide said, it also depends on how we collect data. When you collect data the right way, you will encounter less of these issues, but sometimes really not in your control. And but yes, this step is very important. How to make data usable. It's all about normalizing everything, making sure everything around formatting is working good. But yes, we if you don't have any more things to add today, we could move to the last step
Yeah.
before we run out of
And
time.
once the data is clean, you can visualize it. You can build reports. You can build dashboards. You can use this data to take decisions. And then from there, of course, the process repeats. So once you have a dashboard, you're likely going to ask a deeper question. You're likely going to want to add more data sources. So, but this is all there is. So this is all there is. The entire end-to-end data flow, it's asking questions, bringing in the data from the sources into a central place, cleaning this data, in such a way, normalizing it in such a way that um, that your number, you've got some standards that your numbers are always in the same range, or your indicators names are, if you're using country codes, you're always using country codes. If you're using country names, you're always using country names. And then the process repeats. You add more sources. You ask, you clean, you standardize the new data. You answer the question, you make decisions, you move on, you add more sources. And we decided, since we wanted to give you guys something you can put in your pocket, that's exactly what we put in this cheat sheet. So is data still intimidating? Well, we have
Hopefully not.
put all your doubts on this Figma. We've debunked all the scary words. Hopefully not.
Yes. Hopefully it's more manageable now. A little less intimidating, a little more useful for everyone. But yes, we believe that if we take these steps when we approach data, when you first come in, take a step back. Just think about asking questions first. Very sharper questions. Let's say use the who, what, and when method. Get sharper questions. And then, like Davide said, he explained so well, there are so many different ways or different places that data might live, find the evidence where you need to do so, and make it usable. Let's normalize it. Let's make sure we're formatting everything well. Example with the states was very interesting. You could have New York spelled in three different ways. They all mean New York to us, but the computer will see them as three different entities. And then, yes, once we decide to repeat, there's always a cycle. One answer to a question will always raise another one that is actually a sharper question than the first one. And then it could be a vicious cycle, but it's a cycle that us data people love and enjoy going through. And yes, but hopefully this helped us all think about data in a more practical way, more useful, less intimidating. And yes, I'll let you, David, if you have any words for everyone.
Questions? No, question time. 5 minutes over. Julia, don't kill us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. That was, yeah, it was highly interactive as you promised, and I myself learned a few things. So hopefully we're all a little bit less scared about data. But I wonder if we have any questions in the audience. Do not be shy. Both Davide and Ibrahima are very nice, and I'm sure they will have answers for you. So Ruby is already coming in with a great question. Is there a best practice, or guide for what to translate the data into, i.e. a graph, percentage, story, pie chart, Venn diagram? This is a really good question. Thank you, Ruby.
Ibrahima, you want to take it?
I can take some of it, but my answer, thank you, Ruby, for that question. I think it's a very important one. And it's not an answer that I love when I say it depends as the answer, but yes, it really does depend on what you are trying to visualize. There are always multiple different ways to visualize one's data set, but there will always be one that is out of the, let's say, out of the lot that is looking at better. So, for example, when we're talking about one same data set. I'll talk about the poverty stoplight, which I'm very familiar with. If I have the poverty stoplight data and I'm trying to, because there are three answers usually, it's just green, yellow, and red. I'm trying to visualize that distribution of those three colors. I could do it different ways. I could set up a bar with three colors, green, yellow, and red. It will still give me the answer that I need, as in what is the percentage of green, what is the percentage of yellow and red. But for those type of numbers and the context of that question, I'll move more towards a pie chart, because this pie chart will help me visualize it and get the answer as quick as possible. I think that is a pretty important factor. How quick can I get the answer out of just looking at this visualization? If I'm putting in a pie chart, it will be way easier for me to look at. But for example, if I'm looking at another aspect with that same data set, I'm looking at maybe the distribution of indicators. The indicators, we can have over 50 indicators in one project. I don't want to put 50 different measures, we call them measures, into one pie chart. For those, I'd rather put in a bar chart that I can scroll up and down so I can have more visualization, more space to look at. So aesthetic is very important, but the usefulness and how quick I can get my information are things I will lean on when answering that question. Davide, I don't know if you have another perspective or you have favorite, and
So,
also be biased. Sometimes you have your favorite charts you always want to use.
yes. Well, I can share my favorite chart. No. Same answer. It definitely depends. So one thing is speed. As Ibrahima said, I will probably add, I'm going to call it dimensionality of the chart. So what I mean by this is, say we're looking at an aggregate. So say we're looking at a bar chart or a line chart, and it tells us that across indicators, we've got this specific indicator, water, 17 families have improved. This means 17 families, they were red before, and now they are either yellow or green, or they were yellow and they're green, right? But 17. So are these 17 families that improved and 0 that regressed? Are these 19 that improved and 2 that regressed? So we've got an aggregate that may not just tell us the full story. This is actually an encouragement to have multiple charts for the same piece of information, because a chart is just a perspective. A chart is just a way of looking at things. So sometimes you want to that be as quickly as possible. You know, you've got your North Star metric, like you've got your P0, your key priority that your business is trying to achieve, and you want that chart to be like on your desktop, the first thing that you see every morning. Sometimes you want to analyze, you want to get answers, you want to get to the truth, and therefore you may want multiple charts.
Yeah. And sometimes the best answer is the easiest one. Sometimes you just need a card with a number on it, and that's your best
There you
answer.
go. Exactly. That's the best answer. Yes.
Yes. And yes, and you mentioned line charts. I like line charts. I do always use line charts when I'm looking at something over time. So yes, it really also depends on the question you get. But yes, I thank you for the question, Ruby.
So thank you for that. Are there any other questions? We still have, let me see, we still have probably 3 or 4 minutes. Anyone else? I think it would be really cool, Davide and Ibrahima, if you could maybe just send us, I don't know, a little summary of some of the main points and steps discussed, because this is all very practical information, and the way that you are, translating it into very simple terms, it's really helpful, and perhaps we could then share it with the Global Stoplight Network if, if you agree, of course. Literally like a one-pager of your advice for us here, and I think that could be very valuable. Don't you think so, Wendy? If
Yes,
you're
of course.
hearing me? Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Does anyone else have questions? It would be great to do an interactive session, with actual practice during the Cerrito Forum, like how do you take
Definitely.
actual data from the database and then turn it into insight, right? Following your steps.
Definitely. So yeah, a walkthrough of actually these steps. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or
share our contact. You will have our contacts, I guess. Right, Julia? I guess contacts will be shared after the session,
yeah,
or
yeah.
it's in the calendar. Anyways, yeah. So more than yeah. Please do reach out if there's anything. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Or
Mhm.
or if not for Cerrito Forum, then maybe for one of our upcoming online gatherings for the, with the Stoplight Network. We could make it a bit of an interactive session as a follow-up to this. But thank you so much for that. Does anyone else have questions? Last chance, última oportunidad. Si alguien tiene preguntas para Davide, para Ibrahima. I think we're all overwhelmed talking about data. Yeah. But no, I do feel better. I think it's less scary now that you've walked us through this.
Definitely, yes. The
Glad to hear
process
that.
is super simple. Yes, exactly, exactly. And once you have that framework in mind, it's very easy to talk about the details. You can
Yeah,
let the engineers work in the deets, right? But
yeah,
it's in essence, it's the process is simple, which doesn't mean easy. Doesn't mean easy, but it's definitely
right.
simple.
Yeah, yeah. So really, really good. So thank you for making this so practical, interactive, to really break it down in simple terms. I believe that's very useful. And thank you everyone for joining us on this session. We are going to have the last session of the day literally in an hour's time. We're going to be talking about the technological innovation ecosystem, across Latin America, with the participation of one of the leading venture capital firms in the region. So please do not miss it. Obviously it's going to be available in Spanish and English as every other session during this Innovation Week. And tomorrow, please do join us for the two remaining sessions. In particular, we recommend the closing session with Professor Naila Kabir from the London School of Economics. We're going to be discussing the interface of poverty, gender, and empowerment. So please do join us to talk about changes from the bottom up. Thank you, everyone. Take care and see you soon again, hopefully. Bye. Thank you, Davide. Thank you, Ibrahima, so much. That was great.